You are watching Auth Masterclass, and today we are going to discuss role-based access control. This is one of the most requested topic in my channel, and finally today it is here. We are going to dive detail on how role-based access control works. Of course, there are many ways to implement this, but here is my take on how to implement a simple but effective role-based access control, right? And if you are new to my channel, let me tell you, this video is a part of the playlist where I am discussing authentication and authorization, and I have discussed authentication in complete detail. If you want, you can check it in the given playlist. Now obviously it's time to discuss about authorization, right? Now let me briefly tell you what is the difference between authentication and authorization. So who you are, what is your username, are you logged in into the system, do you have a password, are you an active user, right? This is what defines authentication. Authorization means what you can do in the system. Okay, are you allowed to delete a particular article, say for example, or are you allowed to delete a particular comment, or are you allowed to modify a configuration, right? So say for example, only admin can modify a configuration. Okay, this is what you can do. Or authorization. Okay, authentication versus authorization, who you are versus what you can do. So that is the basic difference, and we have discussed at length about authentication, right? We have discussed token based authentication and we have discussed session based authentication, right? If you want, you can watch those videos. I'll give the link in the I button or in the description box below, right? Now obviously what are we going to discuss? Authorization, right? So now coming to authorization. Now what I have done, I'll take one example. Okay, so here I'll discuss API, which is basically an article publishing API. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So of course you can write an article, and that article will be in draft state. Okay, you will publish, you will just add the article, someone can edit the article if needed, right? Someone else can publish the article. Okay, someone else can revoke the article, and someone can delete the article. Okay, so in all we have 5 to 6 operations. Okay, so get article, post article, then put article, and delete article. Okay, so what I have already done, I have already implemented the article CRUD operation. Okay, why? Because showing you the CRUD operation is not the agenda of this video, right? What I want to show you, how to do access control by role. Okay, so I don't want to waste much time in writing CRUD operation on the article, right? But I'll definitely give you the code walkthrough, and when I share the source code, of course you'll find that in the source code as well, right? The complete implementation. So this is the schema first that I'm discussing. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm creating an article schema, and it has few properties, actually 3 properties. Okay, so first is the title and description, right? These two are obvious. So these are of type string, and it is anyways required, right? Now important one is status. Okay, so status is string, and what is the default status for the article? It will be draft state, right? And what values it can take? It can take draft, which is the default value, published, and archived, right? And of course I am creating a schema model out of this, and I am exporting it. Okay, now coming to service. So we have get all article and get article by ID. So what it is doing, it is finding all article that are in published state. Okay, this is important, because if an article is not in published state, we don't want the user to be able to read it, right? And similarly get by ID. Okay, so you find article by ID, and if it is not in published state, throw error. If it is in published state, return the article. Okay, great. Now add article. So this is basically a post operation, right? So from the request body, we will receive the title and description, and we will save it to our database. Okay, and when we add it for the first time, it will be in draft state. Okay, so that's why we are not receiving the status. Then update article. Okay, so here what we can update, title and description only we can update. Okay, so and here I'm not allowing you to update the status. Okay, why? I'll show you later. Okay, so here what we'll do, we'll get the article ID, and we will get the title and description, right? And then find by ID and update. Okay, we'll update whatever we need. Okay, and we will do the proper error handling, whatever is needed, and we'll return a status. Okay, now this is a published article. Okay, what update we will do here? This is also going to be a put application, put API. Okay, but here what we are going to do, we are going to take an article ID, and what we are going to do, we are going to mark the status as published. okay, and then we will save it. And of course, there's a validation. It should be in draft state, okay, before we do a publish, right? It should not be in archived state, right? That's the point of this validation, okay. Then revoke article. This is very similar to publish article, but the only difference is here we are changing status to archived if only it is in published state, okay. If it is not in published state, we cannot archive it, obviously, right? So it will throw error in that case, and otherwise it will move it to archive state, okay. And then there is delete article, okay. So what this will do, this will find by ID and delete. So this will remove it completely from the system, from our database, okay. Now you will ask why I have added so many methods, right? So this is just to demonstrate permission, okay. So here what I want to achieve by the end of this video is get article by ID, and get article should be public APIs, okay. So anybody should be able to read the article, okay. Now add an article, okay, that means only author. Now what do I mean by author? Author will be a group, okay. I'll show you, I'll tell you, explain in more what is a group, what is a permission, okay. So only author, okay, can add an article, okay. Then there will be another group, say reviewer, okay. Only reviewer can update the article. So if they want, they can do some spelling correction, or they want to change the tone of the article, whatever they want to do, right? But what they can do, only title and description, right? These fields they can update. Now there will be a publisher group. Now only publisher group can publish a article, okay. They will do all background verification, whatever they need, like legal aspects, if they want they can check, right? This is hypothetical example I'm taking, right? So if whatever check they want to do, they can check, and once every check passes, they will just publish the article, okay. They cannot edit the content of the article, okay. What they can edit, they can edit the status, okay. So what they will do, they will publish the article. So this will belong to a publisher group, okay. Then there is a revoke article. Say for example, only admin can revoke it, right? So for whatever reason an article is supposed to be revoked, right? So who can do that? Only admin can do that, okay. And delete article also, let's say only admin can do that. And if you want, you can add more groups, right? You can add a revoker group or a moderator group, right? Guest group, okay. So you can add as many group as you want, okay. Now coming to group and permission, okay. So what is a permission? So each permission is a database entry, okay, that will be associated with one particular operation ID, okay. So in DB I'll have an entry called permission add article, okay, and it will have a ID, right? So I'll attach that ID to this method, okay. Of course we'll do it through middleware, and I'll show you how it is done, but just brief I'll explain you. So there will be permissions, okay. What is a permission? Each unit operation in our system will be a permission, okay. So adding an article will be a permission, okay, and updating an article will be a permission, okay. Publish an article will be a permission, okay. Then there will be a group, okay. Say for example author group, okay. So what group will do? Group will do mapping between users and permissions, okay. That means a group will define which permission can be done by which user, right? And of course one user can belong to multiple group, and one permission can belong to multiple groups, right? So say there is a group author, okay, there is a user one that belongs to the author user. So what I will do, in that authors group permission I will add, say add article ID, okay. Then I'll write the validation, which will do the validation whether a particular logged in user belongs to the author group or not, based on the permission, okay. And what is permission? Each unit operation of our API, okay. So let us quickly start implementing that, okay. So first the permission schema, right? So I'll come to schema, I'll say new file, and I will say permission.schema.js, okay. Then first what I have to do, I have to import mongoose, right? Import mongoose from mongoose, right? Then I will say const permission schema equals to new mongoose.schema, okay, and I'll pass the configuration object, right? And here I will say name, and this will be type of string, okay, and required to be true, okay. Then similarly what I can say, I'll say description, okay, this is also going to be of type string, okay. Great. So only we need these two field in the permission, right? We don't need more anything else. Okay, so this will just have a name and description, and of course MongoDB will generate an ID for us, right? So that ID we are going to actually use, right? Then what I will do, I will say const permission equals to mongoose dot model. Okay, and I will say permission, and it will take the permission schema, right? And what I can do, I can say export default permission. Simple, right? Now what we will do, let us write the CRUD operation for permission, right? Of course we need CRUD operation, right? So let us start implementing that, and where we will do in the service layer. So I'll add a new file, and I will say permission.service.js. Okay, now first what I have to do, I have to import the permission, right? So import permission from schema permission.schema.js. Okay, great. Then of course I'll not add each and every CRUD operation. I'll just add whatever is absolutely necessary for this video, right? Now you should be able to write whatever is needed, right? And if you want the full CRUD operation, of course that you will find in the code repository that I will share. Okay, and if you want to learn more about how to write CRUD operation on MongoDB, I already have created a playlist. I'll give the link somewhere in the I button or in the description. You can check that out, right? Then what I will do, I'll say export const, I'll say get all permission. Okay, and this will be an async operation, and it will take the request and response. Okay, and it will say const permission equals to await. Okay, permission dot find, then res dot status of 200 dot json of permission, right? Simple. So you'll get the list of all permissions, right? Then what I can do, I can say export const add permission. Okay, so I will say async, and it will take request and it will take response, and what it will do, const name comma description, and it will come from request.body, right? Then I say const new permission equals to new, okay, permission, and it will take the name and description, right? Simple. Then new permission dot save, and it will be a await operation. Okay, then res dot status, okay, of 201, and I'll send the new permission in the JSON. Okay, new permission. Now what we can do, let us go to routes, create a route for the permission and attach the service method, right? So I'll go to routes, and I will say permission.route.js. Okay, so first thing what I will do, I will say import express from express, right? Then what I have to do, I have to create the new router. So const router equals to express.router, right? Then I will say router.get on root path. What I will do, I will say get all permissions, right? And router.post. Okay, and here I will say add permission. Okay, now is this enough, right? Now is this enough? See, adding a permission, it should be both authenticated and authorized, right? So of course we are building the authorization system, so we'll see how to add authorization here later, but minimum we need authentication, right? So for that, what we can do, we can go to protected route, and what we have to do, we have to add the login session as well as validate session, right? So this we have to add anyways, right? And what else we have to do, we have to import it, right? So let us import it, and here I should add .js also, right? Great. So now, so we will add this to middleware so that only logged in user can access this API, right? And what else we have to do, we have to attach it in the index, right? So here what I will do, I will say import, okay, and I will say permission router from, okay, /routes/ permission.routes.js. okay, and here what I will do, app.use/ permission. Let me check if it is permission or permissions. Okay, so say get all, it is permission. Okay, so it is, let me copy this one so that we will not get any error. Okay, permission, and it will take the permission router. Okay, great. Now what we will do, we'll run it. So I'll say npm run dev Let us see if it is throwing any error. So it is throwing some error. Okay, so what I have to do, I have to export it, right? So permission. So here I will say export default router, right? I will save it, right? So now it is successfully connected to the DB. That means our server is now running. So here, okay, let me run get all permission. Okay, it is saying unauthorized. Why? Because I have not logged in, right? So I'll come here and I'll do a login. Now this is the session based login. Okay, and here I have not implemented the OTP. So anyways, I'm not sending OTP. The field is just there. Okay, so it has created a session for me. Now I'll come here and I'll get all permission and it is empty. Okay, so now we'll try adding a permission. Okay, now if you see, this is a naming convention that I am using and there is a description. Okay, so now I'll try to add permission for each individual unit of operation in my API, right? So what is one unit of operation? Let us take one example. So if I go to service, okay, and article, this get all article and get article by ID will be public. Okay, so there is no authentication or authorization on this. Now coming to add article. Okay, add article is where I need authentication as well as authorization. Okay, first let me add a permission for adding an article. Okay, so here what I will do, I'll say article dot add. Okay, and here I will say add an article. Okay, and I will say send, and there is some error it has happened. Okay, so let us check what error it is showing. New permission is not a function. Okay, so let us check. Okay, so it should not be a function call like this. Okay, right, so typing error only, right? So let us do this again. So if you see, we have name, description and an ID, right? This ID is important for us, right? So let me quickly add few more permission. Okay, and each of the permission will be responsible for one unit of operation in the articles schema, right? So what are the operations that we have? So we have article dot add. Okay, article dot update. Okay, so I will say update an article. Okay, I'll send this. Then article dot publish, right? And I will say publish an article and I will send it. Okay, then I will say revoke, right? And I will say revoke an article and I will send the request and I will say delete. Okay, and here also I will say delete an article. Okay, so I'll send this. Now I'll go to our database. Okay, I'll do a refresh. Okay, refresh, and if you see here we have permissions. Okay, so we have add a permission, adding permission, right? And if you see, we have article.add twice, right? So I'll delete one. Okay, so when I ran it the first time and when you get the error at the time, it actually created, but when sending the response it failed, right? So I have removed one. Okay, so article.add, article.update, publish, revoke and delete. Okay, so these are few permissions, okay, that are associated with my service, with my article service. Okay, now how to use this one, right? That is the most important part. So I will come here. Okay, and here, okay, I will create another middleware. Okay, and I can name it anything, but it would basically mean that for this operation, okay, for say example add article, and for this logged in user, do a validation against this permission ID, against this permission ID. Okay, so what I will do, I will say I'll create a middleware. Okay, so let me create a middleware and I'll say new file and I'll say, for example, I will say check, okay, permission dot middleware dot js. Okay, and what I will do, I will say export const check permission equals to, it will be a arrow function. Okay, and so far we have seen it like this, right? So it will be a arrow function and here it will take the request, okay, response and a next method, right? Now here I also have to pass the permission ID in this middleware, right? So how can I do that? So I can create a middleware, okay, create a function that in turn return a middleware, right? So here how this will look like, so this will be, I can say permission ID, okay, and this will return, and here it should be equal to, okay, so check permission equals to permission ID as the first parameter, and it will return this method which is nothing but a middleware function signature, right? So here what I will do, I'll just call the next function. Okay, we'll do the validation, but for now I have only added the next method. Okay, now here articles not route. Okay, so here let me do this. Okay, for better clarity, okay, so that we can read the code properly, I'll just do some alignment. Okay, right? So post, okay, it is doing, so this post method is adding an article. Okay, so it is doing validate login, and here what I have to do, I have to say check permission, and I have to pass this ID. Okay, which ID I have to pass, which ID? So I'll come to database. Okay, and I will copy this ID, right, and I will pass it here, right, and I will paste this value, right? So now what I have essentially done, this add article, that is a unit of operation, I have bound it to this particular permission ID, right? Now this permission ID, if it presents in a group and this logged in user also is matched to that group, then only we will allow whether this particular logged in user can add a article or not, right? So now what I will do, let us test this flow. Okay, so here if you see the middleware permission, what it is doing, it is going to the next. Okay, that means success validation, just temporary. Okay, so now when I come here and I'll go to article and add an article. Okay, so title and description, okay, just some dummy value, right? So I'll be able to add it, right? And if I go to database, okay, and I think I should do a refresh. Okay, so here I'll get the article. Okay, I'll refresh it and I'll get the value, right? Now to simulate the flow in which user doesn't have the permission, what we can do, I'll come here and I'll say res.status, okay, 403 unauthorized, okay, JSON, and I will say message, and you can say you do not have the permission to perform this operation. Okay, simple message, right? And I will comment out the next method. Okay, this is just for demo purpose. Okay, we'll eventually add the proper logic here, right? So I'll come to the postman and I'll try to send the request again. Okay, so if you see 403 forbidden, right, you do not have the permission to perform this operation. Okay, what operation? Adding an article. Okay, so now what we have essentially done, we have created permission and we have attached it to a particular operation in our code base, right? Next step is we have to create the group, right? What group will do? Group will map user and permission, right? So this is the role of the group. So group can be, say for example, author group. Author will have n number of users and n number of permissions. Okay, if a operation that we want to do, okay, that belongs to author group and the logged in session, the user that has logged in, that also belongs to this group, then we will allow, otherwise we will not allow, right? Simple. And for this, what we are going to do, we are going to write few MongoDB aggregation pipelines. Okay, so let us do the group now. Okay, so here I'll come to schema. Okay, and here I'll add a new file and I will call it as group.schema.js, right? Okay, so what I will do, I will say import, okay, mongoose from mongoose, right? And I will say const group schema equals to new mongoose.schema, and it will take a configuration object, right? And it will have a name, right? So what is the name of that group, right? It could be author group, it could be admin group, moderator group, whatever name you want to add, right? Then it will have users, okay, array of users. Okay, so here this will be of type, okay, mongoose dot schema dot types dot object id. Okay, and it will reference what? It will reference the user, right? Which user? So if you come here, user, this user, right? So this will reference this user. Okay, similarly I will have permission, okay, permissions, again plural, okay, and it will be of type, okay, mongoose dot schema dot types dot object id, and it will reference, okay, reference what? It will reference the permission. Okay, so I will copy this line and add it here, right? Then what I will say, I will say const group equals to mongoose dot model, okay, and I will call it as group, and it will take the group schema, and it will say export default group, right? Simple. Now what you have to do, you have to add CRUD operation on this, right? So I'll just add the add operation. Okay, if you want you can add more operation like the delete, update, right? And in the okay, but for the purpose of this demo I'll just have only one operation, and maybe the get all group operation. Okay, so what I will do, I'll come to service, okay, and I'll add a new file, and I will call it as group.service.js, right? Then I will first, what I will do, I will say import group from group schema, and I will add the .js extension. Then I will say export, okay, const, I will say get all group. Okay, so just for the purpose of demo I will add this get all group method, okay, and it will be a async function, and this will take request, okay, and response. And what I will do, I will say const groups equals to await, okay, then I will say group dot find all group, it will find and it will return, right? So I'll say res dot status of 200 dot json, and it will be groups. Okay, perfect. Now of course add, right? So I will say export const add group equals to async request and response. Okay, so what are the value that we are expecting? So we are expecting, okay, name, users and permissions, right? And this will come from request.body. Then I can say const new group equals to new, okay, group, and we will pass name, users, permissions. Simple. Okay, then new group dot save, and what we have to do, we have to await on this, right? Then res dot status of 201 and json new group, right? So we'll send the newly created group, right? So this much is completed. So we have added to service method, right? What else we have to do? We have to attach route. So I will say group dot routes dot js. Okay, here what I have to do, import express from express, right? And I will add the, and I will the quote marks, right? Then I'll say const router equals to express dot router, right? Simple. Then I'll say router dot get, okay, and I will say on the root path I will say get all group, okay, and I will also say router dot post, and it will say add group. Okay, and what else we have to do, we have to add authentication on this, right? So how we will add authentication, so we'll go to protected route and we'll borrow this two line, right? And here I will add it, okay, and here also I will add it, because obviously adding a group or a permission, it should be authenticated as well as an authorized operation, right? Now since we are building the authorization framework, we'll just keep the authentication for now. When the framework is ready, we'll inject the authorization part here as well, right? Okay, and what else we have to do, we have to borrow this two line as well, right? Because I don't want any non-logged in user to be able to add the groups, right? Because again that will be a very high security issue, right? So, and here also I'll add the .js extension. Okay, perfect. Now what we have to do, we have to add it to the index, right? So I will come to index, okay, and here what I will do, I will import, okay, I will say group router from /routes/group.routes.js, okay, and here I will say app.use, and I will say group, and it will take the group router. Okay, so let me save this one, and it is crashing. So let us check what is the error. Okay, so again I forgot to export it, right? So here what I will do, export, okay, default router, right? And what else? Okay, and it should be small m model, not the capital M model, right? So with this fix, it is running now. Okay, so now we'll go to Postman, okay, and here I have article, group, permissions and groups. Okay, so we'll do get all groups. Okay, of course we don't have anything, so we will get empty. Okay, now what we will do, we will do add a group. Okay, add group, Now here what I want to do, let us for example I want to create a group called author. Okay, now what we will do, we will come to database. Okay, and I will come to users. Okay, and we have only one user, right? So let us for example purpose, what we will do, we will add this user, okay, to the author group. Okay, so what I will do, I will come here and I will paste it here, right? Now coming to permission, right? So here I have get all permission, right? So this is permission for article add. So I'll pick this ID, okay, and I will add it here, right? Since this is an array, if you want, you can add multiple users as well as multiple permissions, right? So I will send the request. Okay, now I'll open the database, okay, and I will do a refresh. Okay, and if I do refresh, groups will appear. Okay, and if you see here, okay, it is author and we have users array and that has a ID, right? From where this ID is coming, it is 716, right? So this user ID is 716, right? Then we have permission, okay, permission, okay, which has this ID which is 4b4, right? So if we go to permissions, what is 4b4? That is article.add. So what has happened, this author group has mapped one user to one permission. Okay, of course it can do multiple because this is an array, right? Great. So now we have group and we have permission and we have users, and the users and permissions are mapped to group, right? Now I think this is a good point to stop, okay, because the video is getting too long. And in the next video, what we will do, we will write the middleware in which we will do the validation, and there we will see the aggregation pipeline, how we will take the group, okay, and figure out the user from the session and then do the validation whether in this group this particular user exists and it has the given permission. Okay, which permission? So if you go to group routes, okay, if you go to article routes, this permission, okay, so from this validate login we will get the user. Okay, we have this operation, right? Then we will see for author group, for this user, do we have this permission? Okay, so this is what we will do the validation in the next video, right? And I really hope you like this video, you learned something new. If you did learn something new, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, because this is the kind of content that I bring on a regular basis on this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.